I always think about, have you ever seen that movie Catch Me If You Can?
Yeah, Leo, oh, he smashed it.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Leonardo DiCaprio. So that's based on a true story of Frank Abagnale. And so Frank Abagnale is one of the most famous con men in history. And don't worry, I'm not about to admire a con man because there's a very happy ending to this story. But Frank Abagnale, and in Catch Me If You Can, they illustrate it very wisely. He realized if I could figure out how checks work, it's actually so easy to con people and cash checks that don't belong to me and collect that money. And so in that process, again, so much of what we're talking about, and Rishi, I know in so many of your conversations, you frequently talk about loving the journey, loving that process instead of just the end destination. And I think that the real value there is that Frank Abagnale woke up one day and he's like, I just really learned how to gain expertise to a level where I can do something with it. And so my favorite Frank Abagnale story is that one summer he conned his way into becoming a professor at BYU out in Utah. And he was just like, I'm going to teach photography at BYU for the summer. And I don't know if photography was the exact course, but I'm going to use that as the example. And so he signed on as a photography professor and faked his credentials there to the point where BYU said, yeah, take this summer course. And Frank Abagnale had never been a professor, didn't have a master's degree in education, didn't know how to teach others, didn't he wasn't a master of photography himself. And that summer, when they polled BYU students and said who was the best professor this summer, he won by a landslide. And so, of course, it all came out that this professor faked his way into BYU's summer program. And the local news stations were asking him, how did you do that? Because you didn't do it on a level of just being a con man. You did it with exceptional standards and you delivered an incredible result. How did you do it? And his answer was so clear. He said, I just had to be one chapter ahead. And so, Rishi, I don't know how good you are at tennis, for example. I'm not the best tennis player in the
I
world.
am horrid.
That's great news because then I can use you as the example. So I'm not horrid. I'm certainly not a professional or a semi-pro. I didn't play in university, but when I moved to Los Angeles, I hired a tennis coach. Like I can beat your average player at this point in my life. So Rishi, am I good enough to be a tennis coach? Well, to Roger Federer, absolutely not. To Rishi, am I good enough to be a tennis coach? I
Hmm.
promise you, if you and I go on the tennis court, I can teach you something. I will in some way make your forehand marginally better. I will do something for you. And so when it comes to your question of do I have to gain skills? What does it mean to gain skills? All you need to be is a little bit more skilled or a little bit more resourceful. I'll interject that as well than the person that it is that you're serving. And so if I hire somebody to build me a new website, I don't need them to be the best web developer in the world. I simply need to trust that they're going to figure it out. If they've ever figured it out before, great, because they'll bring those experiences. But even if not, I mean, again, like your value will just be dictated by the marketplace. If you're brand new to it, then yeah, you're not going to command $100,000 fees for your website. But I promise you, most people can go figure things out and take that pressure off of the people that they're serving.
Huh. So your value is actually dictated by your client, not how you compare yourselves to the other masters.
Not only that, but it's an interesting loop because your value is dictated by your clients, but your clients are dictated by you. And so oftentimes I talk to entrepreneurs who they tell me very noble missions where they're just like, I used to have financial troubles, for example. Let's say that's the example that we'll roll with. Someone says, oh, I used to have financial examples. I want to teach good credit and good financial habits to people who are in that scenario. And I always ask them, well, okay, so what's true of every single person that you want to help? And they go, well, they're in really difficult financial situations. Well, now you've just dictated who your clientele is going to be. And guess what? That clientele doesn't have the money to pay you $1,000, $10,000, $30,000. So you indirectly have decided which segment of the market you're going to play in, what your value is going to be by dictating what clientele you want to serve. So yeah, it's a very interesting problem. We definitely have input there, but we have to think about the other side of the table as well.
Yes, people, if you enjoyed that clip, remember to subscribe and like the clip. And you can check out the full episode right here. Yep, it's right here. Just press it. Just tap it. It's right there.